thank you all for joining. We've seen as AI is moving from chatbots answering questions to agents taking actions and physical AI just over the horizon, it's having a significant impact on how we operate networks and security. And one of the reasons for that is these are distributed systems. So it might be a robot in a warehouse connecting with an LLM in the cloud to do reasoning and planning, connecting with tools and data in a data center somewhere else. And so that seems a perfect fit for SASE and the convergence of security and networking. And that's something that we're going to explore here today with a great panel. We have the expertise from the front lines with Felix, who's going to give a perspective on that side, as well as both SD-WAN and SSE product leadership. So we're going to take you through some of that in the next few minutes. Let's start with where we see customers today. And several times you've heard the agentic era is here, it's begun. We ran a survey of about 200 IT and security professionals just in January, and we saw that about 60% or 55% are already in active adoption of agentic, and that it's the IT operations and security operations use cases that lead in this early adoption, but there's a bunch of other business use cases that we're seeing as well. And so I'd like to start, Felix, with you. And first of all, maybe a little bit of background on Doxer for those who are not familiar and what your role there is.
Okay. So my role exactly is I'm leading the network connectivity as well as the network security topics for Doxer, which also includes IoT, OT design itself. So Doxer is a global, most European-focused logistic provider. We are transporting food, we are in the air and sea logistics, but we are also doing warehousing itself, so multiple different solutions. And to just give you some numbers, we are operating in 43 different countries, so quite large deployment, more than 500 SD-WAN sites at the moment. So there's a lot of things going on, and to just give you also a number about shipments, we're talking about 83 million shippings a year. Wow. So there's, a lot going on.
A lot going on. And so as you look at AI and potential adoption scenarios, I know you're excited about some of the potential here. Would love just some visibility into what you're looking at, what excites you, how you think it will change your operations and your business.
So at first I would like to start with the concerns I see here. Because with AI, everything is moving very, very fast. So new demands are coming up, new business areas are there, and we need to secure it, we need to connect it. Therefore, I'm a little bit, let me see, excited what's going on, but I also see the huge potential of AI. So basically speaking, what I see here is there's the possibility to optimize how we are troubleshooting, how we get visibility. By today, we are working in different silos, which means I have a focused expert of Wi-Fi, I have an expert of switching, or an expert of SD-WAN. But with AI, I see the potential that also the troubleshooting itself will be more efficient for the company.
Yeah, so it's very much on the IT operations side of things. Cool, thank you for that. So, as you look at both the concerns and the opportunities, it's obvious this will have an impact on both networking and security. And so I'd like to start on the networking side. And these talked about the robots in the warehouse. Maybe they're doing picking and looking to an LLM in the cloud and tools somewhere else. If the AI waits, the business waits. And so that's a significant impact. Hugo, the network's going to feel that pressure first.
Absolutely.
What's different about AI traffic?
Absolutely, but before answering the question, I should tell you how we met, right? Because I like going to customers, because if you go to customers, meet with them, you get new ideas, right? I'm the business of new ideas. And so we were in a meeting in Stuttgart, I remember that, right? just 1 or 2 hours you were giving to me, to talk about roadmaps. But then he was so full of ideas, right, in terms of the complexity to manage that logistic department. 5 hours later, we were just still talking because he was 5 years ahead of my roadmap. So anyway, so back to your question, how AI is coming to the network. And it's very interesting. We have been spending 2-3 years in the industry to building the AI factory. Now AI is coming to where people work, where the processes are. And I see a lot of customers experimenting, but as well warehouses. We have one customer with tens and tens of thousands of robots and warehouses. And what you're seeing is that AI is being multimodal. It's bringing back video, text, images on the network. And the other thing as well, if you think about the robots, physical AIs, is that no packet can be left behind. So what is happening, all these techniques in SD-WAN, they start using so that no packets are being dropped. The other element, it's AI is enormously chatty. So if all these agents collaborating with each other, there's a chatty aspect to it. And now latency, in order to control latency, is super important. And the other aspect is as well, people are creative. And so you will see an explosion of new apps. So how can you take control of it that AI will not overwhelm the network? So that are some of the things which you're seeing from a network perspective.
And how have you, from an SD-WAN perspective, looked at like what needs to happen in order to help keep up and to support this requirement you're seeing from customers?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of things. There are a lot of unknown apps. So how do you classify these unknown apps? Because you have to have that explosion. So you need to identify, but as well have mechanism plates to really grab them, understand them, decide on whether they are important on the network, right? QoS comes back for that. And as well, the other thing, the total, that you can observe it on your network. So that are some of the elements which are coming back to the network for how to deal with AI streams on that network.
Awesome, and that may lead us well into what have we announced this week at Cisco Live.
Yeah, it's super important. So a couple of things. One, we are able to detect AI apps on the network. That is one thing. And we can set a policy against those apps we detect on the network, and we can group them, we can classify them, we can apply treatment policies against them to optimize it, like application-aware policies and all kind of other mechanisms and treatments. The other thing which is super important with the explosion, so in Cisco SD-WAN, we have an automated detection of unknown apps, so that because there will be an explosion, there will be a lot of apps, but we mechanize it how we can detect that, so that between unknown and known, to the customers, that time is basically shrunk. And the other thing, what we are able to do is we can take network traffic, and if we don't trust it, we send it to some security stack, and where Jeff can go more in detail of that.
Awesome. So lots of potential, lots of capabilities that will help teams keep up with the onslaught of new applications and really take advantage of the magic in SD-WAN. But I want to bridge on that last point, because you talked about the networking aspects, but there's also security aspects here. And we have now agents are acting, and so they are going to interact with systems and data and do stuff, and that creates challenges. We've talked a bunch, and G2 talked about this. It's another member of your workforce.
Yes.
And Jeff, we have a lot of history in security with how we control and put process in place about what users and even what things have been able to access. What makes agents so different? And did I burn the remote out? There we go. Okay.
So Kevin, that's an interesting question. So the challenge, of course, every enterprise faces, how do they have the agentic ready enterprise? And we have a lot of history with users and machines on corporate networks. But the agentic entities, whether it's an agentic member of the workforce, an agentic agent of some form, they have a new set of challenges, and they're creating a new kind of problematic space for how do you manage that. And so it's probably worth understanding how they're different than what we're experienced with before. So number one, when it came to managing the security posture around human entities and the interaction of humans in an enterprise environment, the challenge, of course, for humans is they had very broad access to resources, and they had very non-deterministic behavior. Today, I'm accessing a financial system. Tomorrow, it's the order inventory system. The day after that, it's a public website. There was a lot of unpredictability of that. And what allowed us to, from a security perspective, be able to manage and secure the human entity or actors in a corporate enterprise is that we were able to identify them, characterize them, apply policy. But humans overall, you had two compensating controls. One is their speed of operation was fairly limited. So how quickly could they navigate resources in the network, and the ability to apply a compensating control if necessary was possible. And then the second chance, they exercised judgment and ethics, right? Then in the era of web and internet, cloud and mobile devices, we saw this, Cambrian explosion of machines. And whether that was a machine, a thing, a software service, they had a slightly different behavior on the network. So first, the challenge was scale. 10 to 100 times as many machine entities in a network as we had with human entities. And their speed of operations is very fast. However, they were very constrained in what they did. And so because they had very predictable patterns of behavior and they were constrained in their interactions, we were able to implement compensating controls for machines. So humans, it was the speed of operations gave us a fighting chance. With machines, it was the deterministic behavior of the entity gave us a good chance. But now when you look at agentic services, we're going to combine the worst of, or the most challenging aspects of both worlds. We're going to have agents that have extremely broad access to resources, the non-deterministic behaviors of humans, but combined with the scale and the speed of operation of machines. And the only way to keep up with that, of course, is to be able to use AI to manage AI and to be able to respond to that environment in a successful way. So it's a very new problem space.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that we've talked about in the past is, agents are very motivated to do whatever you ask them to do. And so, that may be something, they don't have common sense.
No judgment.
So they will do whatever it takes to achieve the outcome that you've given them, whether it is something that is ethical or not.
Yeah.
That's not something that is generally you can rely on. And so, Jeff, sounds like a challenging problem. We've got some principles to fall back on, but a challenging problem. How are you thinking about addressing this?
Yeah, so I think you were referring to like some of that Molebot, some of the agentic agents interacting with other agentic agents, and they're evolving very quickly in terms of the interactions. So in general, the challenge, of course, for any sort of practice is in order to either manage or to secure it, we first have to know it exists. So what we end up doing is, it's a common pattern. We've all done this before. Is the number one problem, of course, is you have to be able to identify and classify. So the discovery, the identification, the classification. Then we need to be able to do common authorization, authentication and authorization functions. Then we apply the policies that give the guardrails to the behavior of that agentic service. And then we have to be able to enforce those guardrails, generally through some form of enforcement mechanism, like a proxy control, et cetera.
Okay. And now I know Hugo got the chance to announce new stuff, and I know it's always a competition within the teams to say, how can I one-up the other product? So
last, but not least, and clearly winning, we have security for the lead. All right, so the thing that we were really excited to announce here at Cisco Live is within our security service edge as part of our SASE platform, we have a very rich set of capabilities around AI defense, or being able to protect users accessing AI services. today we announced the extension of that capability in terms of how we now apply those same set of security controls, the semantic proxy, in order to look at how an agentic service interacts with data over the MCP protocol. So the ability to do the discovery and the classification of agentic services talking over MCP, being able to then apply the policies and then to enforce that through the semantic proxy controls of our SASE platform.
Yeah, and this seems really important because if you rewind to when users interacted with web apps, we had this thing called HTTP, and we've spent the last 2 decades trying to secure it. Now, when you talk about agents accessing tools and data, the primary way is over MCP, and it's a new, unproven protocol. So we're going to see lots and lots of scars as we go, and so the ability to have the security built right in is a major win.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who are aware, Anthropic developed a protocol, the model control protocol, agents interacting with data services, and we can actually inspect that same protocol, look at the prompt or the content being passed from an agent to a data set or bidirectionally, and then be able to apply the guardrails to it. And that's just the first kind of step in securing these agentic services. There's an entire roadmap that we have behind this, of course, as you extend also to A protocols authored by Google, or even looking further around inserting the proxy controller, a gateway in the middle of the MC protocols with OpenMCP. So a lot more to come, but very exciting with the first steps announced here at Cisco Live.
Yeah. And I gave you grief about the one-upping each other, but I think one of the really important things is, as we look at this, we've talked about the networking side, we've talked about the security side, but really the power is when these two come together. And so this is why we refer to SASE, and I know the two of you are partnering really closely on this, but the combination of security plus networking is really where the magic happens, because we need the security in without slowing down the business. And so this is where SASE comes together. And Hugo, I want to take it to you because I know you are very, very passionate about the value of platform and bringing security and networking together into SASE. And so, kind of give us a sense of why this is so important and how you're approaching it together with Jeff.
Yeah, so everybody knows that security and networking are converging. And at Cisco, we are, traditional market leader in networking, and we have innovative solutions in security, and we have been for many, many years keeping them kind of separate. And that doesn't make sense from a customer's perspective. It doesn't make sense on how all these elements come together. And by the way, it's not just networking security, but as well Thousand Eyes, for example, and other components which comes in that total system. So one is about, of course, simplification, right? Simplification of operations, and I'm talking about that networking security in terms of visibility, observability. You want to bring that all together. But there are as well elements that you can create intent-based policies across networking security. Ideally, it should be intent-based policies associated with an identity, like an app or a user or a thing. But what happened as well by bringing network and security together, where you have security services, you have it across the network, right? And it doesn't matter whether the switch or a router, the firewall, or an SSE, Cisco Secure Access, but you can create a policy which, based on intent, a person can reach certain apps, yes or no, with certain policies around it, and then the system implements it across all of these different platforms which are within the network. So intent-based policy is super important, but as well troubleshooting. You should not go as an administrator if there's a connection issue between a user and an application. You're going in the SD-WAN manager, Cisco Secure Access, you're going in other stuff. No, you want to have a system-based troubleshooting, maybe AI-assisted, where you can find out what are the issues across all of this. So that's another reason to have a platform coming together. Third one is, of course, investment protection. This is a fast-moving world. We see a lot of innovation in security with AI. It's only going faster. And with a platform, you are able to keep consuming all these technologies without forklift upgrades, right? So it comes in, you can consume, new things are happening, you can consume that very easily. That's another element of the platform. Now thirdly, that's most important, because Cisco has and networking and security, I think we are able to create system advantages. So some advantages are, Jeff talked about, that distributed enforcement, right? So you don't have security in one spot and networking in another spot. No, deeply integrated, I can enforce where needed based on an intent. And the other element to it is, you think about it, the old traditional way of doing networking security, you have a network policy, then you have a security policy, and a network, and that slows the whole system down. So we can automatically detect in the network, we can detect nefarious elements, we may have micro-segmentation in place, and we can change the segment and redirect the traffic for further inspection. So there's huge system advantages, and as well, because the world is going to be hybrid in terms of architectures, network architecture, security solutions. So all of that to come together in a unified way, I think doing a platform will provide huge advantages to enable new use cases.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I want to bring it back, because we started with your hopes and aspirations for AI, as well as some of the concerns. And as Hugo shared, you also first bonded over this idea of networking and security converging. Felix, I know that Doxer and your team use a lot of the Cisco products, and so would love your perspective on platform and the advantages and how it helps you run your business.
Yeah. So basically, we are just using Cisco products because we have a very great account team who is selling nearly everything from Cisco to us. So, but no, just kidding. There is a real reason why we are going with the Cisco portfolio. We would like to have everything integrated. So workloads are moving. For example, in the past, everything was running somewhere on a compute on-premise within your own data center. So it was easy to connect, easy to secure. But now more and more, we will talk about SaaS applications. Everything is spread around. And for me, it's really important, because in the past, I hated it if we are talking about security versus connectivity, connectivity versus security. So especially in the old firewall management system, you need to select something to balance it, and it was really a nightmare. Why should I lose security if I'm choosing connectivity, or on the other way around? So therefore, I strongly believe that both needs to be once fully integrated without any borders, central configurations, and so on. And let me just give you a short example. By today, I don't care where the user is. If he's sitting in the facility, if we're talking about an identity, if we're talking about an asset itself, really I don't care. And I also don't care where the workload is running. It could be somewhere in the cloud, it could be a SaaS application, it could be but also running on my premise in my environment. So why should I have different ways to connect, different ways to secure it? But with this solution that we are now integrating security and connectivity, I'm still keeping all of the best of my environment. So I have a really, really great and big SD-WAN network, which helps me to find always the best way to make sure the performance is up there and also have the visibility. And on the other side, with secure access, and by the way, because we just see some trucks behind us, we just finished to roll it out to more than 12,000 trucks, to have it there on the devices, to really make sure that our production is really based on secure access. That's how we are trusting Cisco in that environment here. So I really believe that I can now secure independently of the location, independently of the identity, always the workload, the network access, and don't lose security or connectivity.
Yeah, no, so it sounds like some of the things that you and Hugo talked about a while back have come to pass, and it's helping you to manage it, to deliver a better experience to your users and a better experience for your team, which is great. This is, Jeff, Hugo, I'm sorry, but we have a customer on stage, and the two of you are sitting here, and he uses your products. So I have to ask Felix, do you have a feature request for Jeff or for Hugo or for both that you would really like to see prioritized?
Just remember, Felix, when you submit your Make-A-Wish feature request, it's on the back of the PO.
But after Kevin opened these questions, so don't be surprised if I need to request something. So yeah, I strongly believe into the security cloud control of Cisco to have a central way how I'm enforcing my policies on firewalls, nearly on all same enforcement points. It could be everywhere in the network. So something is missing there if we're speaking about identity, about assets and so on, and it's really identity service engine. So do you plan to also integrate the identity service engine into the policy framework of the SCC?
Yes, we do.
That's good. Yeah.
Cool.
No,
Thank you,
absolutely. It's as a matter of fact, it's the best expression of identity as a feature of the network, is the identity service engine and the security group tags. So absolutely, we'll get right on that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and this is something we hear a lot because there's a very large and loyal ICE base out there, and the ability in SSE and across the SASE platform to identify and then apply policy based on things is a very, very valuable differentiator. Bringing that fully into the management framework and integrating it is a common request. So thank you for pushing us on that. So thank you for spending time with us. Hugo, Jeff, thank you. And thank you all for joining us as well today. We do have, eventually, there are opportunities for you to get more information about the things that you heard today. This will go forward, there we go. From demos and even into workshops on this. There's also a very simple answer, which is to go over to the Future-Proofed Workplaces booth and see some of these demos and talk to people about what you heard and learn a bit more, or catch us after we walk off. But thank you very much again for your time today, and look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.